Hari Om. Good morning, children. God bless you. Have a nice day. Today, let us learn the poem Life by Henry Van Dyke. It is woven around the same concept of yesterday's lesson, His First Flight, in which Flaherty conveys that one need to be bold and brave to face the challenges. Fear is impediment to success. So, let us shed fear and succeed in whatsoever we desire. The poem is written by Henry Van Dyke. Henry Van Dyke was an American author, poet, educator, and clergyman. He served as professor of English literature, Princeton University, between 1899 and 1923. He was elected to the American Academy of Arts and Letters and received many other honors. Now, let us do with the introduction of the poem, which consists the gist of the poem. This poem, Life, describes life taking on life in its truest form, an adventure. This poem is beautiful and inspiring, but also idealistic. One cannot help but be charmed by his childlike hope and absolute faith in the abilities of a warm and heart and an able mind. This poem is actually a sonnet. Sonnet is a poem of 14 lines. Now, I want you to be seated with your text. Turn your page at 17. And on page 18, you have the description for sonnet. The word sonnet is derived from the Italian word sonetto, which means a little song or small lyric. In poetry, a sonnet has 14 lines and is written in iambic pentameter, a line with 10 syllables accented on every second beat. The first 8 lines of a sonnet is known as octave, and the last 6 lines is known as sestet. Sonnets can be categorized on the basis of their rhyme scheme. Now let us learn how to recite the poem based on the explanation given there. See, a line with the 10 syllables accented on every second beat. Turn your page at 17. Now let's recite the poem now. Let me but live my life from year to year. See, there are 10 accents and how you will have to stress. Let me but live my life from year to year with forward face and unreluctant soul. Through this line, the poet mean to say that this is his own experience and he wants to lead a life facing every year with courage. Forward face means courage and willingness to do anything with a happy heart, and unreluctant. And there is an explanation given there. Unreluctant. This is a form generally not used, but the poet has coined it for emphasis. And this is his willingness to do anything with courage. Hope you understand the concept there. Unless and until you have this willingness, unless and until you have this boldness, you can never achieve things. Let me but live my life from year to year with forward face and unreluctant soul. The next 2 lines. Not hurrying to, nor turning from the goal, not mourning for the things that disappear. The poet does not want to do anything in haste, as he is determined to work towards searching his goal. Haste makes waste is a proverb. Don't be hasty, and if you are hasty, you will have to lose it. And therefore the poet says we should not be hasty in whatever we do. Be determined to do and work towards searching your goal. Not mourning for the things that disappear. He also says that we should not feel sad about the things that had passed by. No use crying over the spilt milk. What have we got to do worrying over the past? Definitely, you need not. And here the mourn is used for lamenting. The next lines. In the dim past actually means the sad days of the past, nor holding back in fear. Should not fear for the future also, from what the future wails. but with a whole and happy heart that pays its toll. To youth and age and travels on with cheer. The poet means that the past was dull and glum and he isn't afraid of the future. You'll have to proceed forward with a happy and cheerful heart. Once again, not mourning for the things that disappear in the dim past, not holding back in fear from what the future wails, but with a whole and happy heart that pays its toll. To youth and age and travels on with cheer. So once again, you will have to understand, you should not worry of the past, nor you should worry about the future. Future is uncertain and the past is already past, so there is no use worrying about it. Better concentrate in your present form. So the first 8 lines you call octet. Let me but live my life from year to year with forward face and unreluctant soul, not hurrying to, not turning from the goal, not mourning for the things that disappear in the dim past, nor holding back in fear from what the future wails, but with a whole and happy heart that pays its toll. To youth and age and travels on with cheer. So through these 8 lines, the poet means to say that life is not an entity, it is an experience. No matter whatever it brings, it should be approached with courage and determination and a cool mind. One should learn to be neutral in success or failure. One must stand together in facing challenges. And underline this line. One should learn to be neutral in success or failure. When you succeed, you take it to your head, and when you fail, you take it to your heart, and overdose of anything definitely leads to destruction. So don't take that in that way. Always try to be optimistic, and that will be the solution to see the end result of success. Coming to the last 6 lines. So let the way wind up the hill or down, or rough or smooth, the journey will be joy. As we all know, life is filled with ups and downs, is filled with joys and sorrows, and so on. But you should not bother about that. Whatever it is, you'll have to face it with a cheerful heart. He thinks that the poet thinks that he should live life to the fullest of retaining the childlike innocence and pleasures of life. He likes to travel the journey of life cheerfully. That is what the poet means. To youth and age, from small to big age, and he talks about the travel, the life journey that should be taken joyfully. Though the way goes up the mountain or down the valley, the journey of life should be joyful. Coming to the next 2 lines. Still seeking what I sought when but a boy. New friendship, high adventure, and a crown. Now the poet says he's searching for when he was a boy. His new adventures, his hopes, his new friendship, and his new experiences which enrich him. This we should never forget. All these are not newly developed, all these are inborn qualities. As I already told you, we have this type of quality, that is never give up quality. You may remember the way when you were an 11-month-old baby, how you were just stammering to speak and to talk, but you never gave up. Similarly, he says that he's pointing out, still seeking what I sought when but a boy, the qualities of a child, innocence, and the ability to do. My heart will keep the courage of the quest and hope the road's last turn will be the best. The poet says he's just seeking what he sought when but a boy, and his quest is to be courageous and hope that the end journey will be the best to cherish. The last 6 lines. So let the way wind up the hill or down, or rough or smooth, the journey will be joy. Still seeking what I sought when but a boy, new friendship, high adventure, and a crown. My heart will keep the courage of the quest and hope the road's last turn will be the best. Hope you have understood, children. Now try to recite the poem at home. And this is a memoriter poem. And try to memorize the poem. And this is a sure question, the memory poem question that you'll have to attend for 5 marks. You have 4 memory poems, and this is a first memoriter, and you have enough time to memorize. And don't forget that you'll be taking a unit test after every week. Now let us do with the key points. Let us consolidate the poem. I've given you the key points there. Just go through that. As per the words of Henry Van Dyke, life is an experience. It should be lived with courage and dedication. It should be lived without hurry. It should be lived with a clear sense of purpose that drives the mind and soul to let go of all that has been lost in the past. One should not worry about the uncertain future. Embrace the present with the happiness. Happiness nourishes life with extra energy. Life should be joyous, for it teaches us to grow and live. Imagination to be fearless and pure. New friendships, new adventures, new explanations to enrich us. To always hope for a joyous future with determination and faith. Now, let us see the poetic devices used by the poet. The poet is beautified using some sound effects and some figures of speech. All of us are quite aware of the sound effects that we have, the rhyming words, rhyme scheme, alliteration, assonance, and so on. Now let us see the poetic devices used by the poet here. And this is a poem very different, where the poet has used the couplet. Couplet has 2 successive rhyming lines here. See, a couplet is a literary device that can be defined as having 2 successive rhyming lines in a verse. And I've given you the example lines there. With forward face and an unreluctant soul, not hurrying to, nor turning from the goal. These 2 lines with the rhyming word soul, goal. You have yet another form. My heart will keep the courage of the quest and hope the road's last turn will be the best. Once again, this is the first kind of poem that we have come across, a couplet. A couplet is a literary device that can be defined as having 2 successive rhyming lines in a verse there. We have soul and goal, and quest and best. Next, you have this metaphor. Metaphor is an implied simile. It is a figure of speech that makes an implicit, implied or hidden comparison between 2 things that are unrelated but which share common characteristics. In the dim past, nor holding back in fear. Hope you remember the line. The poet means to say that we should not worry about the past. The dim past. Dim here actually refers to the sad days of the past, nor holding back in fear. Holding back in fear from what the future veils. Future is uncertain. So the poet insists that we should not worry about the past and we should not worry about the uncertain future, and we'll have to concentrate towards the present. And in the dim past is a metaphor. We are talking about the sad days of the past. Next, personification. Personification is another device used by the poet here. And here, non-living thing considered to have life. Simply, that is a definition. Non-living thing considered to have life. Or it is a figure of speech in which a thing, an idea or an animal is given human attributes. Usually the life of humans have ups and downs, but here the poet means to say the way is personified as a human. Just go to the line there. That last 6 lines, the first line. So let the way wind up the hill or down. So let the wave wind up the hill or down. The wave is personified as a human. It takes up the hill or down the valley. Since it's a quality of a human, and here it is referred to the way that moves up and that has ups and downs here. Now coming to the rhyming words and the rhyming scheme. Rhyming words, of course, you are quite familiar. You're talking about the words ending with the same sound. And from the poem, I think you can just do the first 4 lines. Take the first 4 lines here. The first and the fourth line, year, disappear, soul, goal. And taking the next 4 lines, fear, cheer, whole, toll. These are the rhyming words. Rhyming words are the words that end with the same sound. And thereafter, let us do with the rhyming scheme. Rhyming scheme is nothing but the pattern of the lines that rhyme with the other. Sometimes you have the first 2 lines with the same sound, and then you have the third and the fourth line with the same sound, or it goes like the first and the third line with the same sound. But here, I think it is A, B, B, A. The first and the fourth line has a similar sound, year, disappear, and they are given with the representation small a. And then you have soul, goal. It is a new sound, you give them the pattern with B, representation of B there. Therefore, the scheme goes like A, B, B, A. Hope you got it, children? Yeah. Now, poetic devices. Now, the poetic devices can be asked for a 5-mark question where you have only this. Otherwise, you will have to go for the poetic lines where you will have comprehensive questions like what do you mean by in the dim past, or you have identity questions like who does me refer to. Actually, here me refers to the poet, and it is his own experience that he has gained, and he advises the readers to be bold enough to face the challenges there. And again, we come to the base there. The basic qualities to achieve success has faith, determination, commitment, involvement, and perseverance put together. Now you will have to add all these together so that you will do. Perseverance is a word. Pursue, you can also call it as a Kalam's word. Dream, pursue your dream. That never allows you to sleep. Without achieving your goal. So keep on trying. Perseverance. Perseverance is the key to success. Perseverance is the key to anything. I think I have given you the explanation of the poem, and it is up to you to do. Let us hope for a joyous future with absolute determination and faith there. As Henry Van Dyke says, let us take life in its truest form of adventure. It is just not an object, but you will have to face it. Hope you have understood. I have recited the poem. Learn to recite the poem, and it is a memoriter, and you will have to memorize the poem. Don't forget, you will be taking a test at the end of this week. With this, we wind up the poem. Now let us recite the poem once and then wind up. Life by Henry Van Dyke. Let me but live my life from year to year with forward face and unreluctant soul, not hurrying to, not turning from the goal, not mourning for the things that disappear in the dim past, nor holding back in fear from what the future veils, but with a whole and happy heart that pays its toll to youth and age and travels on with cheer. So let the wave wind up the hill or down, or rough or smooth, the journey will be joy. Still seeking what I sought when but a boy, new friendship, high adventure, and a crown. My heart will keep the courage of the quest, and hope the road's last turn will be the best. Never give up, children. That is the main theme. Never ever give up. Keep trying. Keep persevering of what you'll have to do. Once again, I just remind you to do with your memorizing the poem and try to work the activities given there at the back. As I already told you, you are given with the poetic lines and thereafter questions, and you have identity questions and comprehensive questions. And I have already explained it to you of what you mean. This is what you did in your 9th standard. Me, all the pronouns here actually refers to who does it refer to. That is your identity question. And then coming to the comprehensive questions. Try to do with that. And now, turn your page at 14. Turn your page at 14. Let us do with a piece of grammar. And you have active and passive voice given there. Let us recall. First of all, you should know what is a voice. It's a chapter related to verb, and all of us know that verb is a vast chapter. It's like a mother in a family which adjusts with all the other parts of speech there. As the mother adjusts with all the other members, here the verb satisfy the sense of the other parts of the speech here. Voice is a form of a verb, takes to indicate whether the subject of the verb performs or receives the action. First of all, you know what is a voice. Voice is a form of verb that refers to the mood of a person here. And here, the structure of the sentence is given by subject plus verb plus object. You know, the word before the verb is called a subject, and the word after the verb is called your object. So you have two nouns there. When the subject is the doer of the action, then you call it an active form. When the object is given the priority to be the subject, then you call it a passive form. That is why you have two types of voice here. Active voice, passive voice. What are the reasons to use the active voice? Most writers prefer to use active voice because it is more direct. For example, the waiter dropped the tray of food. Whom are you talking about? The waiter. What did the waiter do? Drop. Dropped what? The tray of food. Hope you can understand. The waiter is a subject. The tray of food is the object. You know, object is nothing but a noun only. Noun in the form of object. And you know, object answer to the question what and whom. What was actually dropped by the waiter? It was a tray of food. Since it's answer to the question what, it is a direct object. Since we have only one object, we need not have any specification on it. Now try to understand. So what is the structure of an active sentence? You have a subject, you have a verb, and you have an object. Who is doing the action? The waiter is doing the action. What is the action done by him? It is dropped. What did he drop? The tray of food. Hope you understand, children. The structure of an active sentence is subject plus verb plus object. And in the given sentence, waiter is the subject, dropped is the verb, and the tray of food is your object. And I hope this sentence is very simple and it's very direct and it is easy to use also. But when you want to transform this into a passive, your subject turns into your object and your object becomes your subject. See, the tray of food is written there in the subject's place and the waiter has gone to the object's place. But whenever the subject moves to the object, it always takes a by agent there. Look at the presence of the preposition by. By whom was the tray of food dropped? By the waiter. And look at the nature of the verb there. Dropped. Dropped is the verb, and this has become the participle. Was dropped. Now what do you mean by participle here? Participle is a third form of verb. What is the third form of verb? It is a derived form, that is all. And once again, we'll have to know the classification of the verbs here. First, let me be very clear. Whenever a verb takes an object, you call it a transitive form. Transitive form of verbs are called the active sentences, and only such sentences can be transformed into a passive form. Hope you are clear. The waiter dropped the tray of food. Now look at the condition of the verb there. It is dropped. ed, the addition of ed refers to the past form and it is your past. And another thing you will have to know, so here you will have to see to the time. Again we will have to go to the another classification of verb in the form of tense. What is a tense? Like voice, which is a form of a verb. Tense is a form of verb referring to time. Time as such is otherwise called condition 2, where we have three conditions: past, present, future. Past, yesterday, that's already over. Present, today, that's going on at present. And tomorrow, the future form. And each can be expressed by 4 forms: simple, continuous, perfect, perfect continuous. And here it is a simple past that we have. Now this dropped has become. Now bear in your mind, you will have to go with the 3 kinds of classification to convert an active sentence into a passive sentence. The first of its kind, you will have to identify whether the verb takes an object, whether it is a transitive form. Second, you will have to refer to the table based on time or tense, where you will have to know the nature of the verb. And third form, you will have to go with the agreement. Now what is this agreement? Agreement is nothing but the concord, where you will have to do with the agreement between the subject and the object. When the subject is singular, the verb is also singular. When the subject is plural, the verb is also plural. And here the waiter, the tree of food, both are simpler form, the single forms, and therefore we don't have any problem. Look at the verb placed there. Was, the B form of verbs, is, am, are, was, were, and since it is ed past form, we have used was. And don't ever forget, participle is the third form of verb. So whenever you do with an active sentence, you need to know the 3 forms of verb, so that you will find it easy to convert an active into a passive form. First thing, the structure of an active sentence is S plus B plus O. The next thing, you will have to refer to the tense form of verb. And the third, you will have to refer to the agreement between the subject and the verb there. Hope it's clear, children. Tomorrow, I think we will just do with the activities given there on page 14 and 15. See, coming back, you know what is a voice. We have kinds of voice here: active, passive. Active means what subject does. Passive, the focus is on the action. We have sentences here: Ram killed Ravan. So that is a direct sentence there. We have Ram as subject, killed verb, and Ravan an object here. And when you want to convert this to passive, you will have to do these changes there. The rules: your subject becomes your object becomes your subject, and the verb becomes your participle. Whenever the subject becomes your object, it will have to take a by agent with it, so that you will have the meaning, the sense of the active sentence here. Ram killed Ravana could be converted into Ravan was killed by Ram. So I think this is only an introduction class to active and passive, and tomorrow we'll just proceed with the rest of the lesson. Until then, thank you.